George Washington was named by the Second Continental Congress to command the newly created Continental Army on June 15, 1775. He was nominated for the position by John Adams, the leader of the Massachusetts delegation. He picked Washington because he felt that a Southerner leading an army of mostly Northerners would bring the colonies together. Adams, however, also admired Washington's skill and experience, along with having an excellent character. Washington accepted the position as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army by saying, with the utmost sincerity, "I do not think myself equal to the command I am honored with." On his way to Boston, Washington stayed in New York City when he heard the news about the colonists' stand at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Despite the tactical defeat, their actions gave him hope for the future of the Continental Army. While in New York City, his stay was extended due to the loss of the Charlestown Peninsula. He drew up plans for laying the groundwork for the Army and how to incorporate the militia groups and make it into a professional one. General George Washington arrived in Cambridge on July 2, 1775. The town became the headquarters of the militiamen who were laying siege to the city of Boston. He announced to the soldiers that they were now part of the Continental Army. He reorganized the separate militias and bands of minutemen into regiments and installed a sense of military order. Washington also ordered officers to wear different uniforms and with badges of rank. Upon his arrival, Washington's first headquarters was Wadsworth's house. For a couple of weeks, he eventually moved into a much larger place, the John Vassall House, and would stay there until the lifting of the siege of Boston. Washington appointed 2 generals to help him with getting the soldiers organized into a professional army. The first was Horatio Gates. He was commissioned as a brigadier general and the adjutant general of the Continental Army. His job was to create the Army system of records and orders, along with helping organize regiments from the various colonies. Artemus Ward was named as the second-in-command general by the Continental Congress. His job was to convert the militia units into fighting men. British-born Charles Lee was commissioned as a general and was the 3rd member of Washington's staff. Lee was going to be the Congress's first choice as commander-in-chief before deciding to go with the American-born Washington. The 4th member of Washington's staff was Philip Schuyler. He was commissioned as a major general by the Congress. Schuyler was head of the army stationed in New York and was in charge of the Northern Colonial Campaign. The 5th general of Washington's staff was Israel Putnam. He was the 2nd general besides Washington to receive a unanimous vote from members of the Continental Congress. After the Battle of Bunker Hill, Putnam was immediately placed into Washington's staff and was in charge of the siege of Boston. By the middle of July, the new Continental Army dug in fortifications surrounding the city of Boston. General Washington noticed that the able-bodied fighting men were around 13,000 soldiers, down from the original 20,000. He was able to bring in over 2,000 riflemen from the surrounding colonies of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. By order of Congress, the new soldiers were brought in to keep the redcoats on their toes. A huge problem, however, was rising: the lack of gunpowder available on hand. The Battle of Bunker Hill depleted this small stored stock. Washington ordered more to be brought in from nearby Pennsylvania. To prevent further shortages of supplies, Washington appointed Thomas Mifflin on August 14, 1775, as the Army's first quartermaster general. The siege of Boston dragged on throughout the summer of 1775. The British were able to ship in reinforcements, bringing the total of over 10,000 British soldiers in the city. During the siege, Little Brewster Island was attacked twice by the colonists. The first time was on July 20th, when a squad of soldiers led by Major Voss burned down part of the lighthouse. The British rebuilt it, but it was attacked again on July 31st, when Washington ordered 300 soldiers, led by Major Tupper, to have it burnt down again. The 300 used whaleboats to land on the island. The soldiers were able to destroy the repairs to the lighthouse and managed to sneak off the island, but as they were paddling back to shore, they were discovered by British Marines, who gave pursuit in small boats of their own. But a cannon located off the Nantasket Hill sank one of the redcoat boats, scaring off the rest of the pursuers. During the months of August and September, it saw a series of minor skirmishes between the Continental Army and the redcoats. The British tried to break the lines on several occasions but were always pushed back. The colonists made their move in late August when Washington ordered 1,200 soldiers to dig trenches near the Charlestown Neck. Despite the constant bombardment from the British ships and artillery batteries, they were very successful. Both sides were at a long stalemate. General Washington needed to make a move, so in the month of September, he began to draw up plans for an invasion of Canada along with a plan to capture Boston. He felt he could spare 1,000 soldiers to launch the attack on the British stronghold of Quebec. General Philip Schuyler, who was originally going to lead the invasion of Canada, but due to recurring health problems was unable to continue and handed off the reins to General Richard Montgomery after a few weeks. Colonel Benedict Arnold was given the spare 1,000 soldiers by Washington to lead a support troop to invade Canada as well. The soldiers left on September 11th from Cambridge. With the planned invasion of Canada underway, General Washington called for a war council with his generals and wanted to attack Boston. He received reports from the British deserters and spies that the Redcoats were going to break the siege as soon as they received more reinforcements. But they rejected his scheme and told him to wait for a more opportune chance. Before the Continental Army was created in the month of November of 1775, Washington created his own personal fleet of privateers who would plunder British ports, settlements, and other ships. For this task, he appointed John Glover, a sea merchant and fisherman, and John Manley as naval officers of Washington's fleet. They would cause havoc up and down the coast from Nova Scotia to the West Indies. By the end of the year, gunpowder was running low despite the constant raids of British ports. New recruits were given pikes instead of rifles. The militiamen who turned into soldiers were expected to get paid for their services and before their terms of enlistment expired at the end of the year. As 1775 ended, the invasion of Canada was still ongoing, but something needed to be done before the enlistment period ended. Washington tried to get Congress to make the period last for a year instead of 6 months. While Congress debated on extending the terms, the United Colonies' future depended on the outcome of the winter campaign.